So today we're going to cancel Republican Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy is canceled today for engaging in what I would call right-wing virtue signaling. Right-wing virtue signaling is a special subgenre of virtue signaling, popular among Republican politicians, wherein the signaler jumps into a culture war issue in the hollowest, most superficial, and corniest way possible in order to signal to other conservatives that he's down with the cause, even though he isn't really doing anything to help the cause at all. Now, perhaps the greatest possible example of this is what Kevin McCarthy did a few days ago when he filmed himself reading the Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and Ham. Let's check this out.
Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That's Sam I am, that's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am.
Now, leaving aside the fact that his reading voice for children's books needs a little work. Reading children's books is all about, and I've done a lot of it in the last 7 years, it's all about rhythm and cadence. There's a certain poetry to it, especially with a Seuss book. And all of that is lost in McCarthy's rendition. And he could be canceled just based on that alone. I'm very picky about the reading of children's books. But never mind that. The real point is that this is the cringiest and most pointless display we've seen from an elected Republican in a long time. Why is he reading Green Eggs and Ham? That isn't one of the banned Dr. Seuss books. Nobody has taken issue with Green Eggs and Ham. It doesn't require any courage or boldness to read that book. It's totally irrelevant. It's a signal, not to the left. This is not a signal to the left saying, I will oppose you, I'm not afraid of you. That's a good signal to send. But the left doesn't give a damn if you read Green Eggs and Ham. No, this is a signal to the right. And the signal is supposed to be, I'm on your side. Look at me. I've joined this latest culture war kerfuffle. Aren't I such a brave boy? But the real message he sends is, I am afraid to say anything interesting or valuable about this situation, so instead, I'm going to read from this children's book that nobody cares about. What he could have done, what would have required some guts, not much, but a little, and would have also had some value, is if he had read one of the banned Dr. Seuss books. And the point of doing that would be first to just defy the woke mob for the sake of defying it. And second, to demonstrate how political correctness and wokeness have gone way overboard and driven everyone insane. He could have read, for example, as mentioned earlier, Mick Elligott's Pool, which is an actual banned Dr. Seuss book. And the only reason it's banned, so far as I can tell, is that it uses the word Eskimo. That's it. That's really it. But Eskimo is not a slur. It's not a pejorative. We don't have to bleep it out when I'm saying it right now. Eskimo, you can say that. It's not offensive. Now, it may not be the popular term to use these days, but it's not a slur. And the idea that it's so offensive that it needs to be taken off of eBay and Amazon and taken out of publication by its publisher because it said Eskimo is simply ludicrous. Now, it would have been interesting if McCarthy had read that book in order to make that point. But then he would have had to say the word Eskimo, and that would be a little too edgy for his taste. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say the E word. Or he could have read one of the titles with offensive imagery and showed the imagery on camera. Now, that would have been interesting. And he could have made the point that people 80 years ago, didn't have the same sensibilities that we do today. We can't hold them to a modern standard or view their work through an entirely modern lens. He could have done that, and that would have been worthwhile and bold and interesting. But instead, he read Green Eggs and Ham, a book that is not in dispute and that nobody is talking about. Yet reading it is the safe, easy, uncontroversial way of dipping your toe into the culture war battle of the moment. And that's all we get from elected Republicans. A bunch of toes dipping barely below the surface. And unfortunately, people fall for this stuff. He tweeted that out, and it got like 40,000 or more, I think, likes and a bunch of retweets on Twitter. For what reason? I know that among Republican voters, they might say, well, at least he's doing something. It's better than nothing. No, it's not better than nothing. This is nothing. And there's going to be a lot of this sort of thing from here on out. Remember, the Republicans had total control of the government for 2 years. They had the White House and the Senate for 4 years. During that time, they did basically nothing. They passed a few tax cuts, plenty of cable news hits, but they didn't advance the conservative agenda in any significant way. They didn't even try to advance it, in fact. They complain now about, big tech censorship. Well, why didn't you do something about it when you had the power to do it? The same question could be posed about every subject the Republicans whine about today. They could have passed actual laws, set policy, but they preferred, as they always prefer, to bide their time until they're out of power so they can get back to writing big rhetorical checks that they'll never have to cash. That's their specialty. Always has been. Stand on the sideline and talk a big game. But the moment their number gets called and they're out on the field in the starting lineup, all they do is fall to the turf and curl up in the fetal position, yelling, "Please don't hurt me." Then when they're back on the sideline, they're immediately back to, talking smack. "Man, I wish they'd put me in there. I'd run somebody over, I tell you." The same old song and dance over and over again. I'm not impressed with it. Not fooled by it. I hope you aren't either. And that is why Kevin McCarthy is canceled. Green Eggs and Ham is not canceled. It's a great book. And if the mob ever does come for Green Eggs and Ham, I will be there to fight to the death on its behalf. But right now, that is not the subject that we're talking about. So again, Kevin McCarthy is canceled. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.